Hey y'all, welcome to Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin. I'm Mandy. I'm just a mom sitting down having real conversations with real Texans about what's going on in our state. And today I'm excited to be joined by a repeat guest whose life has completely changed, and she helped completely change the lives of hundreds of thousands of Texas kids. Please join me in welcoming Representative Hillary Hickland.
Thanks, Mandy. It's so great to be here and honor of a lifetime to be part of this movement.
Well, thank you for doing that. So the last time you were here, you were the first guest on the podcast.
What an honor.
Yes!
Thank you.
And I had to have you back because when you were here last time, you were not Representative Hillary Hickland. You were just a mom.
Yeah.
You were just a mom fighting to improve the educations of kids, make sure they had a high quality education, and that they weren't being exposed to pornography in the libraries.
That's right. Well, I still feel like just a mom that's fighting for things that are facing every family in Texas. So we're not that special, not that unique, but definitely need a voice here in Austin with policy.
Yeah. Well, you are. You are more than just a mom, as is every woman that is raising kids and fighting for the next generation of Texans. But we all thank you for tossing your hat in the ring in the ugly arena of politics and getting in there and really working to do some incredible things. And so one of the most incredible things that you did was you were at the forefront of leading the ESA push in the legislature. We finally pushed it through. Hallelujah. Thank you for doing that. And now you're really there on the forefront, continuing to lead the parent empowerment mission to fight back against the taxpayer-funded lobbyists who are constantly in your ear, in your office, walking around the Capitol and messing things up. That's the best way I can put it. They're messing things up. They advocate it's government paying for more government to have more government, and it's against the taxpayers. It's against the parents. And you wanted to come tell the quiet parts out loud.
Yeah, well, it really goes to the crux of the issue that is a government that works for the people. Mm-hmm. And in this role, I've encountered some hindrances to that. Some people that are a part of this big system, and they're able to twist and manipulate policy. They're not elected.
Yeah.
They don't represent the people. They're there with an agenda that's usually the best interest of the entity that they represent, naturally. The one that's paying them, natural, or controlling the funding.
They're mercenaries.
Because the one that's paying them is ultimately us.
Yes.
And I encountered taxpayer-funded lobbying, one aspect of it, before I was in the legislature, but that was through the schools. TASB has a lobbying arm, and then now as a legislator in a whole other way. Yeah. So it's really alarming, and I'm so glad that Texans are becoming more aware of just this aspect of the legislature and government.
Yeah, I agree. And something that I think is really important when we're talking about what is taxpayer-funded lobbying. So this is where school systems, ISDs, this is where municipalities, local governments who are
a water board?
Water boards. Yes,
any
local
taxing authority.
Yes.
It's not their own money. It's our money that we've entrusted with them to provide a service to the community, whether it's, the things that city governments do or their vital services, and using some of that funding to influence legislatures. And often it's against the needs and desires of the communities that they actually represent.
Right. And I want to get into one story that you told me. So why that this is also so important for Texans to understand is when I say these people are mercenaries, they don't just have, very few of them just have one client, right? If you go to Transparency USA and you click on the lobbyists, you see a whole list. I mean, there are thousands of them, to be perfectly honest. But you can go and look at the top 20, 25. And these people are making tens of millions of dollars a year.
One contract from one entity could easily be $100,000.
Right.
One.
Easily.
Yes.
But what's happening is people don't realize this because you've got some people in the rural communities like, we need a voice up there. So number one, you're elected. That's why we are a republic. You are elected to be the voice of your constituents, right? And in their wisdom, when we were setting up the Texas government, they said, we are going to be a biannual government. You are only a part-time. This is not your full-time gig. You should not want to be here very much. You come in for 6 months every 2 years, make laws, go home, right? So you're really supposed to be out in your community. So you should be the one that your local government officials reach out to, correct?
That's right. And I readily give them my personal cell phone number. Happy to talk to them anytime.
Right. Okay. So that's the whole thing. Representatives are supposed to be the voice in the Capitol. But then let's also talk about, so that's not what's happening. So they say we have to hire lobbyists. But what people aren't recognizing and what the dirty little secret in the lobbying world is, it's not like they just have one client. They really are representing sometimes a dozen, sometimes there's 50 clients. And so they are beholden and actually having to juggle the best interests. So they're really not fighting for the local communities per se. They are fighting for who's paying their bills. But when push comes to shove, they're going to serve the ones, and they do serve the ones that pay them the most money. Is that correct?
Sure. And maybe ones that hold them to a higher level of scrutiny.
Yep.
So if you have a private entity, the level of scrutiny over their personal funds is probably going to be higher than some city board where, you just look at
taxpayer funds.
That's right.
It's not coming out of their bank account.
That's right. And so it's a little bit more lax when it comes to the scrutiny level, I would assume. I've had multiple interactions. They've all been negative with taxpayer-funded lobbyists that have exactly had this kind of conflict of interest. One was specifically a bill that was pretty important to one of the cities that I represent. The city of Temple brought to me a concern that came from their community where obscene devices were being sold in Walmart. Yeah. And openly displayed.
At children's eye level.
Yeah.
Let's be, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Openly displayed between the chocolates and teddy bears of a Valentine's display.
Okay.
And, right. Obviously, when we say obscene devices, this is not something that I made up. This is not something that I was looking for. Right. Obscene devices are already defined in the penal code.
Right.
And we as the state, naturally, have chosen to protect children from obscenity. So this is already established in the code.
Right.
So the city of Temple came to me and said, we need your help. We know you're a mom. You care about protecting kids. And we don't want this in our stores. This is not the kind of community that we are. This isn't what we want to promote. Right. When parents are coming into Walmart with their kids, they're not consenting to exposing their children to obscenity when they're shopping for toothpaste and Band-Aids. And so I said, all right, I'll take it on and I'll file legislation, which I did. And I ran into a lot more hindrances than I thought that I would. But the most alarming point to me was I was in a stakeholders meeting and with lobbyists, with other legislators on this issue, trying to work out what's the hang up? Why can't we get this across the line? Yeah. And one of the lobbyists in the room was the taxpayer-funded lobbyist for the city of Killeen. However, he was advocating for Walmart because he also represents Walmart.
There it is. The conflict.
That's right.
There is constantly a conflict with these mercenaries. The taxpayer-funded lobbyists are not only taxpayer-funded lobbyists, right?
Right. And whenever I confronted him about this conflict,
So what happened? Sorry. Like, what happened in the meeting? He said... Basically, he was saying we don't want to have to.
He was advocating from the perspective of Walmart.
Okay,
and I said, well, you also represent the city of Temple. Oh. What's the hang up? What are they telling you? Because I knew what they had told me, and he said, well, they've said that this has gone too far, and they wish you weren't spending so much time on this one issue. And so we just let it hang there for a minute. We let it get awkward. And I left the meeting. I called the city manager who told me that this lobbyist had called her several days before and said, you need to get Hillary to drop this bill because it's going to hurt her. And naturally, like, my city council doesn't want to hurt me, doesn't want me to be ineffective in my role in the legislature. And they were very grateful for what I had done. And I was appalled at the way that this was being manipulated and spun. And thankfully, the city council stepped in to reaffirm their support for this legislation by passing a resolution supporting the bill.
So the taxpayer-funded lobbyist that is receiving money out of your constituents' bank accounts.
They are
being forced to pay this person with their tax dollars.
$100,000.
Taxpayer-funded lobbyist, $100,000
for this one contract to this one lobbyist.
Meeting not only was incredibly deceitful, but was took off his I'm supposed to represent and advocate for the people of Temple and Killeen, took that off and said, my big dog over here, Walmart, doesn't want to have to move their shelves around and protect children from obscene material. That's what a taxpayer-funded lobbyist did.
Yes. Yeah, it's alarming.
This is just one of many examples.
It is one of many that I personally experienced.
Yeah.
You know, and so to play the devil's advocate, so why would anybody want a contract with a taxpayer-funded lobbyist? You might say, well, they bring about guidance on policy, education. They're up there fighting for us. But what actually happens is they're fighting against the entity in many cases. But the city council, they can't see that. Yeah. They don't know the ins and outs of that. Right. And honestly, maybe I see an entity's lobbyist twice during session. I mean, for what they're being paid for,
right?
That's an incredible amount of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money for 2 meetings while they're also simultaneously working against the people. Oftentimes.
Well, they buy me lunch sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
Right. They'll bring in the entity, the board members, and they'll provide lunch, which is nice, but I meet with those entities anyway.
Yeah.
And
that's what they do. Yes. Another story that you've posted and that the Parent Empowerment Coalition has tried to, really highlight is the Texas Association of School Boards, or TASB. You mentioned them earlier. I say this and I will say it again. I think that they are an absolute stain on our system. They manipulate almost every single piece of education-related policy. Just like when people see great policy, even that great legislators are trying to put forth, they get in there at the last minute and they make a tweak. They put in an amendment. They change the language. They get to those in the conference committee and they make these tweaks and changes. And then you think you're going to get a piece of legislation that will solve a problem for Texans or protect the rights of Texans. And it's them in there just making little changes and little tweaks. And a great example of that for people that don't know is Thomas Ratliff, a lobbyist for TASB and has been for at least a decade. You can go on Transparency USA and see that he's been paid nearly $500,000 of taxpayer money. This is taxpayer money. Simultaneously, not only is he lobbying for the legislature, but his child is a successful trans performer, did like RuPaul's drag show from what I saw, but like does this, and I think was out in LA and did an interview with a magazine saying how proud he was that his father is a taxpayer-funded lobbyist and that he was right now teaching drag queens how to testify against the legislation to prohibit drag shows for children. TASB, Texas Association for School Boards lawyer, spending his other time teaching drag queens how to fight against parents and moms and dad. Well, this is just another disgusting example, but it is real and it is all right there.
Well, and it's undeniable that there is a liberal leftist leaning bias to this entity. And we've all heard well, maybe we all have not, but you've done a great job of telling your viewers and Texans about these experiences that trustees have encountered at these conferences. We have some of the policies that have actually created hurdles to jump over when you're trying to get pornography out of schools. That was really my first encounter with TASB's influence. And the thing that we have to ask ourselves is, when we pride ourselves on local control and how our communities represent our traditions, our values, how is that possible when you have a statewide entity with a blanket policy? There's no way that you can adequately represent with local control something that's coming that blankets Austin ISD and Belton ISD.
Right.
It isn't possible. And the nature of any of these entities is they're going to be risk averse. They're going to do what's in the best interest of the entity, not necessarily the end user, the ones that they serve.
Right.
In this case being children.
Right.
So my specific first interaction with TASB and this kind of example came through a policy, blanket policy for books, the review process, how you get, how you remove books, sexually explicit, age inappropriate books from our public schools. It was lengthy. It was arduous. It put the onus on the parents who just want to make sure that their kids are safe at school, that they're not being, their brains are not being violated, that they don't have to go home and undo whatever they've been exposed to in a library. And even though these school boards, they're trusting the policies that are being handed down to them from TASB, and even superseding that over the authority of the governor or the commissioner of education, who said, just pull it.
Right.
We've got your back.
Yeah.
You have the authority. Pull the porn.
Right.
But then you have TASB advising them to develop this process because you don't want a lawsuit from the ACLU because the main character in this pornography is a minority or maybe homosexual or trans. And that they would advise or develop a policy over a possible lawsuit over the certainty of exposing children to obscenity is exactly what we're talking about. Right. Like at some point, somebody just needs to do the right thing. So when I saw their influence, and that is a very specific example, there are other examples.
I was going to say, there are so many.
There is a policy. So essentially, our schools give over all of their policies for review to TASB, and TASB will go through and it happened that they decided a hunter education course was not necessary. Well, I live in a rural area. We love our Second Amendment rights.
Right.
We love gun safety, hunter education. That's huge in our community. Yeah. I was sad to see that was one of the policies that they highlighted. And why? Why? I mean, it's
because they are influenced by incredibly left-leaning entities, and they partner with them regularly. Far left. You can go and look at what far left entities routinely lock arms and put out public statements with the Texas Association of School Boards, with the Texas Association of School Administrators, which is basically just their school admin arm that Brian Woods is over there when he decided to retire from Northside ISD after that whole bond debacle. But the point is that this network is so large and so influential, and they really are oftentimes being driven by hardcore far left ideologues at Pastors for Texas Children, Texas Freedom Network, TSTA, which is an offshoot of the NEA, AFT Texas. They are all locking arms. And even if there are some even good conservatives that might be in that area, they have created this unholy alliance where to control everything, whether it's that flow of money, whether it's that power or that influence on our children's mind, they have all decided that they will lock arms together no matter how nefarious intentions are, no matter how harmful it is to children, and say, we are going to use our power and influence to do X, Y, and Z. To heck with the kids, to heck with what the voters and parents want. This is what we're going to do. That's what they're doing.
Right. And that's what the average family is up against.
Right.
Good luck.
Right. Well, you talked about your experience with the school boards and getting the porn out. They were just trying to wear you down. Because they made you read every single book, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, the whole process.
You had to outline. Then you had to make recommendations. I remember you telling me this, and I thought, my gosh, what parent? You have 4 kids. How in the world would you have time to do
an
all
alternative?
Right,
of course you wouldn't.
I remember you said, can someone tell me an alternative to porn? And I'm like, no, I got nothing. It's nuts.
Right. And why is it my job to audit a library?
Right. And you went to war with the librarian.
Well, yeah. So, and none of that worked. Some of the books are still there. There are still sexually explicit, age inappropriate books in our libraries right now.
Yep.
So I just knew that, well, locally, I'm no match for this giant force. Even talking to my school board members one-on-one, which typically, they were alarmed, but that's a lot for them to go against too. It really takes a special person that has the courage to stand against this kind of effort, to sit on a dais and to push back and sometimes be the only one.
Right.
And to say, well, you're really putting us at risk, or if we get sued, then it's your fault. And of course, nobody wants to bring trouble to their local schools, but just as a whole, when we're looking at the tight budgets and the financial situation that a lot of our public entities are in, whether it's school boards or city council or our counties, why are they prioritizing hundreds of thousands of dollars to lobby when literally, here's my cell phone number. Just give me a call.
Right.
I'm here for you as much. Like, our cities represent our citizens, or they should.
Yeah.
And that's really how government was intended to function, not to have some mediary in here. We don't know them. He doesn't live in our community.
That's right. He won't fight for your community like you will.
No, he doesn't shop at our HEB. He doesn't go to church with us. He doesn't, know the police officers and the firefighters and the people that we live and work with and associate with. So why would we abdicate the things that are most important? And honestly, like, when we do that, we lose control over it, and it also removes the passion behind it. Like, I know when a constituent calls me or comes to my office in the Capitol, they're there because they really care.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing to be there. Even if it's a phone call, they're sacrificing time out of their day. They could be spending it with their family. They could be having dinner, but they're taking the time to call me. I pay attention. I know this really matters to them. Versus someone that's paid to be there. Do they care? Maybe, but it doesn't matter to their everyday life as much as it does to us. And I think having that degree of separation is very harmful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You're talking about exactly the importance where I hear people push back. It's in particular in the rural community saying, we're not going to have a voice. And I want to reiterate this. The entire point of a republic is for the community. HD 55 elected you to be their voice. They elected you to represent them. It is their responsibility to communicate with you on issues that are important. And most of them, if they knew that there was some sweaty old lobbyist up there making $100,000 that came out of their pockets while their property taxes keep going,
that's right,
they would be appalled. Which is what we're seeing. It's like the parent empowerment movement has just broadened, and we've become the parent taxpayer empowerment movement because it all goes together. It's our communities.
We've talked about 2 different examples, but I have more. And
Let's hear
I
'em.
just got there.
Right. You've been there. You've done one session.
Yeah.
So let's hear them. Give us some more examples of how these taxpayer-funded lobbyists are just not doing good things. Some of them are doing downright deceitful, deceptive, unethical things.
Behind the backs of legislators.
Let's hear them. Tell the stories.
2 other bills. Gosh, which one do I choose? But I mean, in general, these 2 other, I found out that there were taxpayer-funded lobbyists working behind my back, whether it was in committee members where my bill was trying to go to, or even across the chamber to, I had gotten a bill specifically. It's kind of nuanced, so I don't want to get too much in the weeds because, not everybody gets it. But
what
there
happened?
was a bill that was an issue that my community had been fighting for 10 years. Mm-hmm. This bill flew out of the House because people understood how much this mattered.
Right.
By the time it got to the Senate, rather than come talk to me, I had lobbyists,
taxpayer-funded
lobbyists for counties and cities going behind my back, talking to other members in the Senate and trying to kill the bill. And when I became aware of it, I actually confronted them and I said, hey, did you talk to my office? Oh, no. Rather than, and the issue was around funding. So if my bill passed, it would decrease the funding for other entities if the House budget, because I had funding for this bill in the budget, but rather than advocate for the funding, they focused on killing the bill.
Right.
Thankfully, it passed anyway. Mm-hmm. But it was one of those that I found out that there was manipulation.
And some threat. Like there was...
No, it got even worse. So then these particular lobbyists go back to their city, the city that they represent, who I represent a portion of. It's the city of Killeen. I have 20% of Killeen. I advocate for them too.
Right.
I didn't want any harm to come to this city.
Right.
But they present to the city council a legislative update. They never asked me for my input. They didn't invite me. They didn't let me know that this is what they were going to be doing. And essentially talked about how horrible my bill was, how it was going to hurt the city, the community. They even trash legislators. Oh, they're there taking money from these donors. They don't care about you. They don't. Yeah. I mean, I was appalled. They presented in the update, the legislative update, they presented data that came from my office. And yes.
So they took your word, they plagiarized and then used it to try and slam you?
Right. So because they asked us about some numbers that we had gotten from the comptroller's office related to funding. They wanted more data, and we said, hey, go ahead and reach out to the comptroller's office, and they'll help you with whatever other questions that you have. So I watched the playback of this city council meeting where they literally for 30 minutes, they trashed legislators and basically were like, they hate you. They're not for you. It's so good. Yeah, this was a bad session, but it's so good we're there fighting because otherwise it would be worse. Right. Job security. Right.
Yeah.
So then
it would be worse. You elected them, not us.
After I saw that testimony that they gave to the city council, I called them and I said, what was that? And they, played it off like, oh, the report, that it was a bad reporter or whatever. And I was like, no. I saw the tape. I heard what you said. Yeah. And did you ever call the comptroller? And they said, well, no. So they literally just took all of our information from my office. Yeah. They're getting paid. And that just goes to show, like, what the heck
they get paid $100,000
each. And there were 2 of them.
So they get paid $200,000 when you're the elected person from the community just making all your $700.
And they're, before this council, justifying their jobs, basically, and their contracts, which they've had for multiple years. Yep. So when you add up all their contracts over multiple
millions.
And trying to say, yeah, this is going to hurt your budget. And I'm thinking, well, I know how to save you a couple $100,000.
Yes. To the people of Killeen and Temple and really all over Texas, cut them. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
They are not in your communities. They are not representing you. In fact, the majority of them live in Austin.
Yes.
They live here in very large, palatial, multi-million-dollar homes. The majority of them came out of the Capitol.
Yep.
Let's also be very clear. So just so that everyone knows the secret that is, we all know, is that what is happening is high-level staffers, right?
And sometimes members.
And or retired members, when they leave the legislature, they start or buy into lobbying firms. That is what they are. That is who these people are. And then they know, and they're right in the sense that they know how to play a rigged system. They know how to tweak things. They know how to go to somebody. They know where the weak parts are. They know where the pressure points are.
Yeah.
That is what is happening.
The new members.
How can we lead them astray? How can we guide them over here? How can we smile real big and say that we're going to be your best friend and bring you coffees and donuts and muffins every morning? But that's what's happening. Mm-hmm. They leave the legislature and then they parlay those relationships into selling back to taxpayers unknowingly millions of dollars in phony services, because that's not a service. What you're saying those two taxpayer-funded lobbyists did, that was not a service to come and collect your information. And that is what lobbyists do oftentimes, is they go to offices, they come to TVPF, they get information, and then they will go and sell it or pitch it as their own or use it to try and manipulate things. Right. And that is really, again, why we see what should be great legislation occur, and it's tweaked because Walmart or some other entity has a interest and is willing to strike that $100,000 million
and even
check.
The narrative that this particular these two lobbyists gave to the city council was that I was somehow bought off by donors, which is straight up projection.
Yeah,
because I'm not the one that's been bought off.
That's right. That's right. And you're not the one that's getting rich off anything.
No.
Right. I flippantly made the joke. These people are making literally, I mean, some of them are making millions of dollars a month. Yeah. Let's be very honest. They're making millions of dollars a month. And they're not elected. They're just up here weaseling their way in. And they smile big. They look good. And they are controlling so many aspects of what goes on in our government, having not ever been elected, and our taxpayers have no clue that they really even exist.
And I would even give the benefit of the doubt to these boards, these council members. You got to trust somebody. You have to, and so they're believing oh no, we need this service. We can't make it without their help, without their guidance.
They should trust you. You're there. That's what you're there for.
Right. Or I wouldn't be elected.
Right. You're the person that's going to go and fight the hardest for your community.
I live there.
Right. Yeah. You live there. You have the vested interest. That's your home.
That's my kid's future.
Yeah. That's it. That's what I'm trying. I just want to keep reiterating that. They have sold an idea, a false projection. They have sold a mirage of what they do. But what they do is manipulate. We've got to stop this. We cannot stop this. We cannot do this.
Yeah, Senator Mays Middleton is calling it the USAID of Texas politics.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for this whole spirit of Doge, this transparency, the let's get to efficiency. And that would be my question for anyone who is a part of these boards or supporting taxpayer-funded lobbying. I would just ask them, what are you getting?
Yeah.
I would ask the taxpayers, are we getting our money's worth?
Mm-hmm.
Answer's no.
No. And what are their conflicts? Because the conflicts are there left and right.
Right. It's not only that we're out that taxpayer money and the services that it could have gone to, but also shifting and directing the trajectory of policies that affect our everyday lives. against our own interest and our desires. This is not what we voted for. This is not what we want.
Right.
But I'm telling you, as a new girl in town, it's a behemoth to come against.
Because it really does take away power from the legislators. Because you're out communicating to your community, your constituents. They're out communicating to their community, their constituents. And you turn around when you're here for that 6 months, every 2 years that you're here, the part-time legislature that we have set up, when you're not in your community.
Yeah.
And everywhere you turn around, you've got these people that are everywhere. They're like little rats scurrying around, and they're everywhere, and they're going and they're trying to sabotage you.
Right. So you're
at every turn.
You're going to come to the Capitol, try to manipulate me.
Right.
Then you're going to try to jack with my bills.
And they're going to manipulate you.
And then you're going to go back to my community and talk trash about me?
Yes. Because they don't have to get a single vote. It doesn't matter what lies they tell. That's part of the problem.
Just keep that contract.
Just keep that contract. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just a salesman. I'm going to come up here, and I don't care how much I trash her. It doesn't matter. I know why they trash you. I mean, because you see it, and you're willing to say it.
Right.
It was the same thing about seeing the porn in the libraries and all the other problems.
Look, I'm not looking...
It really is upsetting the apple cart.
I hope so. And that's what needs to happen. Because, Mandy, I was not looking for a job. I was perfectly happy at home with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a career.
Yeah.
I just happened to be someone who saw a problem and saw the opportunity to make a difference for the betterment of my community.
Yeah.
And I just said yes. And I don't know for how long, but for the time that I'm here, I'm going for all of it.
Yeah. Good. The taxpayer-funded lobbying thing, I want to make sure our viewers know how much this actually is intertwined with the bonds and the bond cycle and those entities that we've dubbed the profiteers, who all have the same taxpayer-funded lobbyists that represent your community and other communities. The profiteers that are steering up these massive bonds. We just talked about the fact that there was $5 billion worth of bonds in the past May 2025 election cycle. We added $41.3 billion to our debt in Texas, our local debt. It's absolutely unsustainable. And to be clear, you as a legislature do not levy property taxes. That is at the local level.
Right.
They passed another $41.3 billion. $5 billion of it was voted on by 4 Texans. 4.
Right.
It's absolutely absurd. And so
it's saddling the next generation with debt.
Right. It's completely immoral.
And for everyone who wants to eliminate property taxes, we're never going to get there.
Right.
Because of issues like this.
Because, let's be clear, all of these massive entities, these massive architecture, engineering, and construction entities also hire the very same lobbyists. That's why when we started talking about the fact that these lobbyists, like the one from Killeen, not only represents that community, but they also represent Walmart. Look, Walmart's real smart. They are going to be hiring those lobbyists that represent communities that they want to go into. I either want to go into it, I want to protect this, I want to whatever. And these business entities they're part of the system, they're part of the game. They're hiring the taxpayer-funded lobbyists on the private sector. And again, they're paying them massive amounts of money. You go look at the top 15 lobbyists in Texas that are making over $100 million a year. They're not only representing the communities, but they're representing these big businesses that are affecting our property taxes, that fund the bonds. They are the ones you can go look. Prosper for the kids, Forney for the kids. Well, I don't care what it is. It's always for the kids because that's always how they're going to try and sell it. And it is those same massive businesses that are funding all of the bonds to tell you absolutely need a $150 million track and field stadium like they are building out in Crowley ISD. And they also have the very same taxpayer-funded lobbyists on their payroll as well. And so that is where it all intersects, that Texans have to know your property taxes are out of control. And no matter how much great leaders like yourself, Senator Middleton, Governor Abbott, no matter how much y'all are out there trying to say we've got to end taxpayer-funded lobbying, we've got to reduce property taxes, it all goes together.
Right. it is a complicated web for the average person, but and it's overwhelming, but to have a concerted effort, a coalition to push back is going to make the difference.
Yes. That is why people have to understand the seriousness of ending taxpayer-funded lobbying, because the same taxpayer-funded lobbyists that are causing your property taxes to skyrocket are the same lobbyists hired by the profiteers, by the builders, by the engineers, by the architects that are selling these Taj Mahal schools.
Well, and then getting in the way of passing everyday legislation that citizens need, that Texans are asking for. Not just asking, we have a mandate.
Yes.
We've got some changes. We got work to do.
Yeah.
And this is just one of the, in the darkness, in the shadows, ways that is making it difficult to move the needle.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. When we look at Texas as a whole, in Texas, we have values like you and I. I talk to, moms and dads all across Texas as I've traveled, and it's the same values that we have. I don't care where you're sending your kids to school. You don't want your kids looking at pornography. You want them to have a high quality education. And you are sick and daggum tired of getting property tax bills that keep going up, no matter how many times you're told you're getting property tax relief. Because the profiteers, which taxpayer-funded lobbyists are part of that, keep seeing the hard work that you're doing, the hard work that great leaders at the legislature are doing, and keep just going and gobbling up all of that relief.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So, all right. We've covered a lot here.
Yes.
I'm grateful for you being willing to, you are always so gracious and so articulate in speaking for Texans, particularly parents and now taxpayers who really are trying to figure out what's going on. How did we get run off the rails?
That's right.
So
thank you.
What do you want to say to the people of Texas? I want you to look in that camera and I want you to tell them what they need to know about why their property taxes are out of control, what you're doing to fix it, and why taxpayer-funded lobbyists have to go as well, because they are all in this together.
Right, right. We are fighting so hard for you. We hear you every day talking about your property taxes, and it comes from our local entities. So the best way to lower property taxes is to cut budget spending. One big budget item is taxpayer-funded lobbying. That's one of the things that we're going after, and can't stop, won't stop fighting for you every day.
Thank you so much for always being a voice for mamas and daddies, and now for the people of House District 55. We're so grateful for all the great work that you're doing up in the legislature. Thank you for joining us today on Parent Empowerment with Mandy Drogin, and now you have the power.